It's late November 2013, and I'm on a tiny boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. 4 days ago, I discovered I would have to be surviving without internet for a whole week. Now, though, I had different things to worry about. We were plowing through 3-meter-high swells, making it impossible to take measurements, and what's worse, impossible to keep your stomach under control. I could have been having a movie night with friends right now, but no, I decided to drop out of university and social life to spend 4 consecutive days with my head hanging over a boat's railing. And while I was looking down at the water surface, I wondered, what on earth am I doing here? Well, there's this thing in the ocean that doesn't belong there, and it's called plastic. Every week, the volume of 2 Empire State Buildings worth of plastic flow into the oceans, where eventually part of it reaches one of these 5 concentration areas called gyres, the largest one of which is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, halfway between Hawaii and California. And I'd like to illustrate the scale of this problem to you in 3 numbers. The first number is 100, which is the current number of species that could go extinct because of plastic pollution. The next number is 13 billion, which is, according to the UN, the current number of damage plastic does to our economies each year, in US dollars, by the way. Finally, there is 1 million, which is the number of times the concentration of toxic chemicals increases when adsorbing on plastic particles. And when these plastic particles get ingested, they thereby end up in the food chain, a food chain that includes us, humans. So, a few years ago, when I learned about this, I obviously wondered, why can't we just clean it up? Well, I quickly realized that the ocean is quite big, so if you were to go out there and start fishing for plastic, it would take you about 79,000 years. It would cost you many tens of billions of dollars, and furthermore, you would catch sea life and create emissions, thereby potentially creating even more damage than you already had. And finally, the plastic rotates in these areas, so it doesn't stay in one spot, making a cleanup operation even more difficult. However, I wondered, why go through the oceans if the oceans can go through you? I envisioned a network of extremely long floating barriers which, attached to the seabed, enable the plastic to concentrate itself. The array, oriented in a V shape, would enable the plastic to move towards the center, thereby becoming increasingly more concentrated. And once arrived here in the center, it will be so dense you can hardly see the water. That's the spot where we can then physically extract the plastic from the water and store it before shipping it to land for recycling. An elegant idea, if I say so myself, but could it actually be done? To answer that question, I founded an organization called the Ocean Cleanup, in which, together with a great team of 100 scientists and engineers, we then performed a year-long feasibility study. In our work, we were guided by the 50 reasons people told us it couldn't be done. One of them was that plastic was supposedly too deep to clean up, so we organized several expeditions to an ocean garbage patch and actually measured how deep the plastic is, which included the experience I just told you about. Fortunately, in the end, we were able to take the measurements, and the results turned out to be really good. It also took a lot of engineering to have barriers that can survive extreme storms and moorings that can be attached to 4.5 kilometers of depth. We also, for example, proved that the ocean plastic we will be extracting can be recycled into high-quality products, just to name a selection of the questions answered. The conclusion? With a single 100-kilometer array deployed for 10 years, almost half the Great Pacific Garbage Patch can be cleaned up. This tiny stripe is all that's needed. Compared to the size of the Pacific Ocean, it's peanuts, really. So this is where we are right now. Even though the concept is likely feasible, there's still a lot to do to make it executable. So to do that, we're currently focusing on two major topics. One is determining how much plastic is in the ocean, and two is that through a series of upscaling tests, we now prepare the technology for full-scale execution in 3 to 4 years' time. So one, we know we can clean up almost half of the plastic, but half of what? Estimates on the amount of plastic in the oceans actually vary orders of magnitude, because there isn't a lot of data. And for us, it's actually kind of important to know, because if there would be, say, 10 times as much plastic as we anticipated, the cost per kilo to remove that plastic from the ocean will basically also be divided by 10. So to solve that problem, here's what we came up with. This is Hawaii. Those are 50 vessels, and in August of this year, they'll be taking more measurements in 3 weeks' time than in the past 40 years combined. We're calling it the Mega Expedition, and it will be the largest ocean research expedition in history. Okay, so that's in terms of the plastic, but what about the technology? So on the other side, we're scaling up the system, resulting in world's first operational ocean cleanup array in spring of next year. Here you can see the 3 steps required to get the technology ready. So the first step, the scale model tests, are already in progress as we speak. Now, though, we really have to start preparing for that first ocean deployment. An important question arose, however. Where will this first ocean cleanup array be deployed? Over the past few months, we studied many locations, looking for one with good current and wave conditions, with supportive locals and government, and with lots of plastic to catch. And today, I'm happy to share with you that we have found it, the perfect location. Let's have a look. Tsushima Island, an island halfway Japan and South Korea. Every year, its coastlines receive over 30,000 cubic meters of trash per year, and this equals about 1 cubic meter for every inhabitant of the island. And right now, the inhabitants of Tsushima Island do their best to keep their coast clean by hand, but this is actually costing them $5 million each year. But because the cleanup array will place in front of the island, will intercept part of that debris, costs will likely be saved. And this is the reason why we're currently being actively supported by the local government on important topics such as the funding and the dialogues with the fishing industry. And this is how it will look like. Even though the scale is just 2% of the eventual scale, it will already be the longest floating structure ever deployed in the oceans by 2 orders of magnitude. And on the longer term, it's Tsushima's plan to convert the caught plastic into energy and with it power the island. How cool is that? And it's my pleasure to have our friends from Tsushima here today, and I'd like to thank all 4 of you for giving us the opportunity to bring the ocean cleanup to your beautiful island. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. This is a solvable problem. Back when I was on that boat, nobody knew whether it would be possible to clean the oceans. But we believed that it was important to at least try. And now we know. And we're doing it in your backyard. Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks.
I think that is an amazing story to hear this right now. And guys, he's 20 years old. 20 years old. I mean, what you're going to do for your entire lifetime is going to be incredible.
Perhaps clean up space debris.
Space debris?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. It's such an honor to have a chance to talk to you. I mean, you know, the one thing that's pretty amazing, we have one thing in common. We have a lot of things in common.
Sure.
But the one thing we have in common is that we're both dropouts from school.
Yes, yes. University dropout, yeah.
I have a bunch of questions for you. We're going to spend this time having this conversation about your project. I want to talk about the Japan announcement and some other great things. But can I ask you, how did your parents feel about you leaving university?
Actually, I think I should be very thankful to them that they've given me the, that they realized that there was a good opportunity and given me the sort of the space to do it. Obviously, it's not really sort of a conventional path. It was a great 6 months on university, though, I must say. But
6 months?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think for most people, university is a sort of a great tool. But if you can already, but I have to stress, I think it's a tool. So if you can do what you want to do and you have to do without it, I mean, that would save you basically 5 years of time.
Exactly.
So that's convenient.
Well, I think you made the right choice. So, and I'm glad that your parents are supportive. So that's a great thing.
I should be thankful.
I wish I could say the same thing about my parents.
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about Japan. So that's a huge announcement.
Right.
Huge announcement. So, like, how supportive is the country of Japan for you to come in and help with this problem?
Actually, they're very cooperative. So actually, I must stress that we're still in the development stage. So we'll now be doing a feasibility study together with them. And I'll be traveling to Tokyo this Sunday, I think, and together with the mayor of Tsushima, we'll be signing a mutual agreement with whom we can initiate this process.
So how did this one location, like of all the places in the world, why this one location?
So foremost, they actually visited us in Holland, and it was clear that they have this huge problem and that we can help with that. And it was just sort of a mutual collaboration. I think there were 8 governments that had shown interest in having this in their waters.
Oh my gosh, it's like an Olympic committee with you. It's like,
yeah,
that's a good thing, though.
It's a good, good analogy there. Yeah, but this by far was the best location.
Cooperation's the key thing.
Right.
So I want to go back just a little bit because I feel like for a lot of people here today, and especially for you, it's like we all sort of have like this aha moment. And so when did you start all of this? You had this aha moment. You were swimming in the waters. You were, how old were you?
16 years old, yeah.
16 years old. You're swimming in the water. You see all this pollution, all this plastic. You have an aha moment. What was it like to have that moment? And how did you know this was something you wanted to dedicate your life to?
Yeah, so I had been diving for a few years, but just like trial dives, and then one day I decided, it's kind of cool to see beautiful things underwater, and I decided to get my license. But like the first day we went underwater, the only thing I saw was trash, certainly more plastic bags than fish, and I thought it was kind of depressing. And I thought, why can't we clean this up?
Right.
And then I noticed that already a lot of people were involved with this problem, but they were all sort of on the behavioral change side.
Like things like don't buy plastic bags.
Right.
Don't
So very small scale individual actions, which
plastic bottles of water.
oh yeah, I see a lot of them. But I really believe that if the faith of the oceans really relied on the individual will of 7.2 billion people, then I wouldn't be sleeping tonight for sure.
Right.
And to me, technology is a very important tool to amplify your individual actions. And I'd always had a lifelong interest in technology. I've always been a bit of a geek. And
That's a good thing.
yeah, why not? And I thought, what I really noticed was that there was a lot of negative bias towards technology in the people that were already involved in this topic, because they say, okay, plastic is sort of a technology, so it created the problem, so we should stay as far away as possible from technology. But to me, they're missing the point. Technology is just an amplification of your actions, and it can be good or bad. And I think that if we wouldn't embrace the power of technology, that wouldn't be a very wise thing for us to do.
So this concept you have and this pilot program you're doing, do you want to talk about how you raise the money to do it? Because it's obviously a very costly venture.
Yeah.
It's not coming directly from you. You're not
Sure.
bankrolling it, are you? You're not bankrolling it.
No,
Okay.
I don't have any money.
So it's a couple $1 million that you raised. So
Actually, the first 300 euros that was put in the project, that was my own pocket
300
money
euros.
saved up, but that was a long time ago. So last summer, we through crowdfunding, actually, we raised $2.2 million in 100 days.
Wow.
Thanks to the help of 39,000 people in 160 countries, including South Korea. So thank you.
wait, round of applause for South Korea for that.
Yes. Kamsamnida, is it right? Yes.
Oh no, your Korean's better than mine.
Thank you.
This is sad.
But obviously, so that's what's the start. And now the full cost of this second phase, this pilot phase, is about 29 million. So there's still sort of a tiny budget gap there. But
How do you plan on raising the $29 million?
Actually, we have some news on that, but I don't think this is the right time to share
But good
that.
news.
It's good news, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good. Very exciting. So, okay, people are inspired. We saw your presentation, which was incredible. And you have a team. Let's see, you have 12 people on staff and over 100 volunteers. So does someone have to be a scientist? Do they have to be someone as technological and as advanced and sort of visionary like you to be part of your team? Or they could be someone like me that could help you?
Well, so most of the team are indeed engineers and scientists, but we also have some people on sort of the office part, obviously. But to me, when selecting people, it's really really important that they are curious people that are very solution oriented, because it almost appears like some people do not realize that if you're working on a project where you're pushing the boundaries, that you, by definition, come across boundaries. I mean, otherwise you can't really push them. So, and some people, they come across like a problem and they just, they get panicked. So it's very important to have people who actually enjoy working on problems. And yeah, it's
and it's all sorts of things. I mean, it's not, you're not just going into, if you're a volunteer or an employee, you're not just going into the water.
Yes, and actually, thinking about it, I think our age level is quite low. I still am the youngest employee, but I think
who's your oldest?
Yeah, actually in the 50s.
Okay, good.
Yes, yes. But sort of a general observation is that the older, well, it's not necessarily the case. There are the people that are of some age in our team. They are very creative, but also sometimes you get to the sort of irony that curiosity creates knowledge, but sometimes knowledge kills curiosity. So some people that are very experienced, they sometimes know too much, and thereby have a hard time of not thinking in the framework that they have experience with. Sometimes it's really good to get people from different industries. We have some people coming out of the aerospace industry because they don't know a lot about the offshore industry, but they are very good in spotting new things that people from the offshore industry may have thought, like, okay, that's a crazy idea, we're not going to do that.
But passion trumps everything. I mean, if you don't have passion for what you're doing, it doesn't matter how much you know when you say that, because you're clearly passionate about this.
Yes. I mean, clearly the rest of the team is also very passionate because so our salaries are probably a bit lower than the market standard. So, and we certainly don't pay people to work in the weekends, but we certainly have a full office in the weekends.
So I have a question for you. So right now we're being broadcast on naver.com, which is one of the largest internet sites in Korea. We're also on SBS, so thank you for SBS for broadcasting this. Plus we have a great audience here right now, and obviously this is a problem I think we all can relate to. We see those images, we feel terrible about it. We want to go out there probably ourselves on those beaches and pick it up, but we obviously can't do that. What could an individual person do at home right now? What are maybe a couple of things that could actually help protect our oceans?
Sure.
May I just add this? Other than giving money to your next Kickstarter or crowdsourcing fund?
Or joining our team.
Or joining the team.
It's a very fun team. Yeah, let's see. So obviously, I mean, there are the obvious things. So eventually plastic that also gets on the streets ends up in the ocean. So we shouldn't make plastic into pollution, recycling, etc. But I also want to stress that, in my opinion, the idea that there is this idea that everyone can make their own small difference, but to me that's actually I prefer to say that people can do a lot more than that, I would if you see like people like J.B. Straubel who founded Tesla, or many other people, when they started there was nothing, so they could have just changed their light bulb, but they didn't do that. They actually founded a company and did something huge. So I invite people to really be bold and come up with big ideas. And
maybe in the United States, some of our communities, they've outright banned plastic bags, bottled water.
So trying to get the promise to sort of a higher level of decision making is certainly very important.
Activity in government would be a good thing. Okay, so let's talk about this. You are a technologist. So what's your opinion on the current state of innovation right now?
Good question.
Is it going fast enough?
Well, I mean, it's so that the way we run this organization is really like I don't know if that's a thing here, but like a West Coast startup, like a Silicon Valley organization. Even though we are a tax-deductible nonprofit, we do think that way we can reach our goals most efficiently. But when you're talking about Silicon Valley, I do think people are often trying to come up with solutions to problems that don't really exist, which is kind of a shame because there are obviously enough real problems out there. I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but I don't think the world needs another app. We really need, there are all these problems, and there are plenty of them that needs to be solved. Even though we just developed an app, but yeah, it's
okay. Can I ask you, is there anyone like in the plastics industry? Is there anyone that's like sort of actually? Because I think this is such an inspiring program. I think what you're doing is amazing. But is there anyone that's saying, He's 20 years old. He doesn't know what he's doing. Don't support this. It's like, how do you respond to something like that?
Right. Well, so especially at the beginning, there were some people who thought this thing is 100 kilometers long. The biggest thing we've deployed in the ocean is 1 kilometer. So clearly that's crazy. And even from like a 20-year-old person, that's even more crazy. So I don't know. And still, right now, thanks to this feasibility study, we leveled we raised the level of certainty like many orders of magnitude, but still we aren't certain that it can be done. We know in about 3 to 4 years' time, so now through these tests we will get more certain and more certain. But considering the scale of the problem,
right.
I think it's just very important to try. And so far there were so many reasons people told us when it could be done, and actually so far we've been able to sort of answer them all, but I really would like to invite people to actually come to us and say and tell their reasons why it cannot be done, because it's actually very useful.
But can I just say this? At least there's someone here who's trying. At least someone here with a visionary idea, with an aha moment, who actually went out there and raised the money, put the team together, and is trying to actually figure this out.
Right.
Instead of someone just sitting around and complaining about things and saying, it can't be done. So I have to say, I admire you for that.
Complaining is a lot easier, though, and fun as well.
Complacent.
But this is fun as well, yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 things I want to ask you, or 2 things I want to mention. One, this is a fun question. So obviously you're curious about the ocean. This is all about conscious curiosity. What about just like in regular life? What are you curious about outside of the ocean, outside of this work, outside of your program and your company?
There isn't a lot of things outside of the ocean cleanup right now for me. It's like waking up, opening the laptop, working, closing it, sleeping.
Say Korean food.
Thanks for the hint. There we are. Better answer.
Korean food. Oh, okay, great. You're in the right city for that.
Yeah.
So I do want to mention, I know a lot of you probably have, you want to spend some time speaking to him. You might have your own questions. You're having a press conference right after this.
Yeah. Right.
So you're all invited to please come join him, and then also, or ask questions. Not join him in the press conference, but ask questions after the press conference. But what I think you're doing is amazing, and I would love it if we all could give him another round of applause for everything that he's doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.